Hello, everyone. I'm Rob Smith for Smith in the Black at T3 Live on Super Bowl Sunday here in the United States. And you know what that means? It's also coming around Groundhog Day and a new month, February, to start off. So let's take a look at this SPY. And like I was saying, when we had two doji months to start off the year and a lot of inside months, even though the S&P wasn't, you get that explosiveness like you got here when we start off February going up. So, you know, I talked to a lot of people and they're like, oh, I wanted to short the market because it's going overbought. Well, here's the problem with doing something like that. When you're fighting a trend like this, if you're considering it overbought, this might be all you get. You got a down day and a little down day, and then boom, right back up. And so, you know, if you're using oscillators to trade overbought or oversold, you want to remember to use those within the major trend as opposed to looking for overbought. You want to try and get the oversold dips. So if we take a look at the 60, knowing that we trade in a series of broadening formations in a very strong trend, you don't get much of it. And here you can see in the 60, just the slight lower lows here. Burns off the overbought on the 60 here, and then boom, right back to the top. So to start off the week and the new month, still, you know, top of this triangle, but still going strong. You know, let's take a look here. The weekly triangle now coming back up into this stuff. So it should start to get interesting in here. Most interesting here as far as broader averages. Definitely going to be QQQ. And boy, if you're trading these things, this daily chart is a mess. I certainly wouldn't want to be trying to trade this intraday if this is all I had. And you can see the broadening formation here in QQQ. Now trying to come up through here, but most importantly during this big drive higher, QQQ has barely gone anywhere. Shrink that down for you. And QQQ, remember on my charts Friday, shows on the weekly is the daily, but there's a weekly chart, so QQQ is going to open up as an inside week. So the question is this just slowly trying to pen it higher before a blast up, and obviously the bugaboo over there has been Apple. We're going to get to the tech sector in full here. However, you know, as I tried to drive the point home last week about, you know, the Apple faithful, and wasting your time in a stock that's really struggling here. Once again, market takes off. Apple comes up a little bit, but here's the problem. We still had an inside day here, which would have been nice. However, it gapped up. That's a problem. And the reason that is because when you have an inside day equilibrium, we want it to open with inside that range and travel out, because at this point, where it opened is pretty much all you're really hoping for out of that move. You know, everybody's looking for a big bounce, but when it gaps up, that's all the buyers that was going to power it through that inside day, and it stalls out. The hope there was for the Apple faithful that this would be a momentum hammer. It just comes in, shorts, didn't cover, and it pops back up, and they put their stops in the high of the day, and then it goes off to the races. But that's not what happened. It backed off again. And I just can't reiterate this enough, you know, especially in a market environment like this. It reminds me of the AT&T commercial with the guy and the little kids. He's like, okay, what's better? Stocks trading, do you want to buy stocks going up or stocks going down? Stocks going up. Well, why is that? Because when you buy the stocks that are going up, you make the money. And when you buy the stocks that are going down, you don't have any money. And then you can't buy the stocks that are going up. That's a pain in the buns. So that's a problem here for Apple. However, we've got a new month. So with the new month, unfortunately, as you can see here, for the last 4 months, it opens and pretty much drops. It almost never trades higher than it opened for the month, and that was a problem on Friday when we open the new month. It opens on the high again and drops. And so in order to turn this thing green for the month, finally, it has to take out 459.11. As far as actionable signals, the good thing you would have is Apple closes as an inside week. Has a bad day Friday here, but it's an inside week. And so if we can take the inside week here above 462.60, then it would be green on the month, and then it would be green on an actionable signal on the week. But we just haven't seen much of that, and so if we're looking at anything like that, but that's what it's come down to really for this QQQ inside week. And I'm going to get to more tech there in a second. So if we go to the TLT, let's go QQQ 60. And, just QQQ. Let's go to the QQQ 60. Once again, the triangle trying to get out of this thing has just been stuck in here. You can see this broadening formation here with the Dow and the SPY breaking out and making higher triangles. This thing's still stuck in here, this channel in here. So we'll be watching to see how it acts in here. Once again, it's held these higher lows. Down in here would start to be a problem. But for right now, that's what we'll see, and we'll watch the inside in Apple, and I'm going to get to the tech in a second. If we look at TLT, TLT, much ado over the last few years about the bond bubble needing to burst. And here you can see the 60-minute opening on the highs and just falling apart, triangle style like that. And if we look at the monthly, the question here is if this broadening formation highs here, all right, inside month goes up but then fails and breaks to the downside and now continues to fail. So if this is the actual failure of the bond bubble, that people have been looking for, potentially comes all the way back down into here below that for the first topping triangle maybe. But if this is really just the upper part of a triangle, like in a real bubble burst, this would be the apex and get destroyed, and that would mean great things for the market as the money flows out of the bonds. We're not sure that that's occurring just yet. If you look at the weekly, talked about this formation here. This triangle here and coming down toward the 115, and now it is. We'll see how it acts there. You can see some support into here, but if it breaks below that, that'd be another triangle. But for right now, starting off the month, backing off. If we take a look at the TIPS market, TIP here you can see a well-defined weekly here starting to give this up, and this has been strong too, but now this is starting to give up. The TIP, keep an eye on that. As we talked about at the beginning of the year, euro, showing strength, and part of the bear case is just completely fallen apart because it was for a good portion of last year. It was like keep an eye on Europe. Well, the euro's coming up, and I talked about watching key stuff out of Europe, and the Deutsche Bank inside month and up. I'm sorry, the EWI, and the Italian bond market's falling apart, 2 monthly hammers and coming up off of that. So that's kind of falling apart as the euro comes up. If you look at the dollar itself, potentially here's this monthly bottoming triangle here and could come all the way down into some more new lows. So here's your weekly. We'll see how the UUP acts coming down in there. But the bear case in many cases falling apart when you look at fiscal cliff and you look at now upcoming debt ceiling. All this stuff in the economy and unemployment still not really affecting anything until that changes. And we'll look at Dow theory here coming up. So if we stick at the Dow Jones Industrial Averages, okay, Dow through 14,000, trying to make those make new highs, held above here, the weekly trend line here, and blasting through there. So even a drop back in here is still considered support. No big deal. So like I said, there's no actionable signal there. But if we look at the weeks, here's IBM. IBM's an inside week, and remember I talked about that monthly being real important when those earnings came out. And certainly it was. Once again, holds the top of the monthly broadening formation inside month and up. And now we've got an inside week. We've got Microsoft as an inside week after 2 doji months. Talked about the range down in here. Now it's an inside week here to see if there's really a comeback to brewing there. DuPont is also an inside week, the double D. And the double D, fulfilled last month, inside month and up. If we got UTEX, really been strong here as an inside week. I'm sorry, this is a weekly hammer, and potentially just like that hammer in that apple, which didn't work. When we see a strong trend, we want to look for to see if it can take this out. It should be a powerful move if it takes it out. If it's not, we get out right away. It's called a momentum hammer. Shorts had their chance to cover, didn't. It comes right back to the highs. They come in, they don't get the sell-off they're looking for, and they all have to run in and cover. So that's how that theoretically works. We'll keep an eye on that. We've got Disney as an inside week near the highs. With the monthlies, we got Coca-Cola closing as an inside month. We got Merck as an inside month. And McDonald's on the Remember that triangle here and the monthly hammer now comes all the way back up. Remember we were watching this weekly triangle and boom, there it is in McDonald's. Once again on the monthlies, Intel would be your problem here. Still, was inside month and shooting star back down. Now it needs to trade below last month's lows to reconfirm that as a reversal back down. But as we've seen, the Qs have gone sideways with Apple falling apart and now Intel not really leading. But there's other things trying to pick that up, and we're going to get to that section in just a bit. For right now, just watching those inside weeks and months in the Dow. For the Dow itself, no actionable signal, and like I said, near the high. So we'll take a look at the transports. Trannies. Up, sideways measured move into new highs. Once again, potential momentum hammer up on the highs. And this is the problem when people, it's overbought, I want to short it. Well, this might be all you get. If you're a nice, wise guy and you can take that out of it, that's great. But rolling over and dying is another story. So transport's still there. Not too many actionable signals. We did have the last month beauty of CNW. The inside monther and up. Now, going to come up and start off as an inside week. JB Hunt trucker. Inside week near the highs. FedEx. Potential another, that momentum hammer off the top of this. Remember we were watching for that breakout here that we got there, coming back up through 100. And now, even if it backs off, that would be support. We've got United Airlines. And the question here is going to be Earl, if this is a monthly shooting star against resistance, or if we're just going to hang out here until it measured move here, up, sideways. But it's coming up against resistance, so we'll keep an eye on that, especially with oil prices affecting the airline. So I was going to watch the oil there. Alaska Airlines, still pretty much the king here, and going doji, 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 doji inside week. So keep an eye on the ALK. I said last week or last month it was important to keep an eye on the utilities. And so here's the utilities monthly. And so what we got was, as you can see here, let's go to the daily for a second, is that why we watch Dow Theory is that, okay, the market was somewhat overbought, whatever people want to believe. However, what we want to watch is how the market internals act on pullbacks in the broader market. And so what this means is that the lagging utilities still had money coming in, even on the days pulling out of the market. That's bullish. That means that money still wants to come in, right? Even as the broader averages take some profits into some of the strong names, money still wants to come in. It's going into the utilities, and so that's still a pretty bullish sign. Right now, just going to see if there's any follow-through after the inside month and back up. We've got ED here, inside month. Consolidated Edison still didn't come up. Potential monthly here. See how that plays out. Dominion was a good one, inside month and up. I'm going to start off as an inside day. So we always want to make sure we're watching the entire rotation, what's exactly going on and everything. So as far as Dow Theory is concerned, things, fine. Just, like I said, it's hard when things are on their highs. We need to see how they act when they correct or try and trade momentum as they continue higher. If we look at the financials. Financials really strong, and what happened last week is we had, as the market pulled back, the financials stayed inside days. Here, 2 inside days. Finally got the one dip on Thursday, but remember, when this equilibrium is broken, it needs to just break. If this thing was really going to break, it was going to go. Here's a touch and go, an attempt to take the inside days to the downside. You come in the next day, bam, right back up, complete failure. Right, just some slight profit taking, but they still wanted to buy it. So the FAS stayed very strong. And this is how we correlate the sectors to the stock. So at this point, when the inside day went to the downside, but then gaps back up and is showing this as a failure, we want to look at stocks in that group that stayed inside, were too strong to drop with the FAS here. And in that case, it was Goldman Sachs. And staying inside here and up as the other one tried to back off. And so another nice move right there. So let's go around here with JP Morgan. JP Morgan goes out on the highs, with the monthlies still here. It could be as high as 50 if it fulfills this monthly. But like I said, it's still just going strong. We got Wells Fargo coming up, trying to get back above this. Remember, there's a real well-known resistance level. You can expect this kind of chop. But now Wells Fargo for the week. Inside week. You got Citicorp inside for the week. Bank of America was trying to go inside week, but took out the inside week, and now potential momentum hammer. Comes right back up toward the highs. If we look at STI, STI for a while was inside week and down, as you can see here last week. This is another variation, reversal strategy. Right? We get an inside week. So if this thing's really going to break, it comes down and stays down. Right? But then as we end the month, it comes back in and forms a hammer within that inside week range. So once STI takes out the high of 29.47, we're going to start looking long side, because that means it's a rejection of this inside week to the downside, representing just profit taking, not real selling. And the buyers should reemerge. We'll be looking for that above that. Inside week, we got STT, still a monster. And we've been talking about that for a while off the breakout of the monthly here. We got BBT. Talked about this a few times here, trying to go reversal here, inside and right back up. Still watching this weekly triangle. We got BXS, inside week. We got Aflac, inside week. What's interesting here is going to be the cards. This MA is an inside week and goes outside week. All right, so getting a little choppy here, and that means we can expect some triangles to maybe get a little bigger in there with Visa. With the Visa week, try to go upside, another outside week there. And both of these, Visa and MA, starting off the week is inside days. I want to be careful there. We want to look for some interesting moves here out of Discover and Capital One. If we look at Discover, Discover closes as an inside month. All right, so is it down, sideways measured move down on a correction, or is it down, inside and back up? And if you look at Capital One, Capital One's an outside month. However, on the daily, still looking at something like this, trying to hold on. Oops, let's get it a little bigger. Like this, trying to multi-broadening formation here as we get these outside. So this could be a little tricky as far as the outsiders for the MA, the Visa, and the Capital One on the outside month. These things get a little choppy. That's why we're going to pay attention to them triangles. Goldman Sachs I discussed. Morgan Stanley going out near the highs. And like I said, so far so good for these things. But, no actionable signals there, just trying to, just momentum running. If we look at one of the triangles I talked about in the insurers for a while, this, once again, it's a monthly, and these things can take for seemingly a long time to play out. But, for taking a macro view at things, this HIG still has this triangle here. Once again, this thing's been a lot higher. If this is really a bottoming triangle, just to get to the top would be, mid-30s here. So keep an eye on that monthly triangle in HIG. As I stated earlier to start out the year, the S&P was not inside on the month, but there was a ton of inside months, and nowhere more than the energies, ERX. And certainly that all played out very nicely, as far as your Oxys and your BPs and your Chevrons and just real nice inside months. So can that continue? Let's take a look at the OIH. Talked about the OIH having the two dojis here and the Diamond Offshore and the Riggy. And so everything went really well on the energies for January. So the question is, does that continue? If we look for further confirmation from the weeklies to start off the month, we got inside weeks for Baker Hughes. So Baker Hughes popping up, still trying to work on weekly triangle here, potentially too strong to make the lower lows. Now an inside week. We've got Marathon, MRO, as an inside week as well. We got COG, the natty gas names, still near the highs and inside on the week. A little caution here with this daily triangle, but this environment, things keep it going. If you take a look at Apache, it took a while to get it going on the monthly. All right, comes down here, doji, and then up. And if we look at this weekly, it continues to look very interesting here. This is still a bottoming triangle formation. This, you can see it's still having series of lower highs. But if this is indeed a triangle here, Apache still potentially good momentum move there. If we look at Devon, talked about this triangle many times. Here, finally gets out of there. Bam! Right? So the question is whether it's going to continue to, whether the laggards here off support can continue to support a further move in the ERX, but Devon trying to break out of that triangle. If you look at Hess, they're trying to break up the company, and you can see this monthly coming right up to this triangle. I think you can see it a little bit better on the weekly here. So Hess would need to get out of here and use this as support. And if we look at SWN, start off February as a monthly doji hammer, if that can get out of there. But like I said, a lot of that stuff's played out, a lot of momentum stuff. So let's get to the XME. XME, interesting here. Remember, that was an inside month, but it gapped on the first day. And just like I said in Apple, like when we're looking for a signal to be actionable, we preferably want it to travel through the highs or the lows, because that's what's going to trigger the stops. And then hopefully a further move. When it gaps, that might be all she wrote. And unfortunately for the month of January for XME, that's indeed what happened. So that inside month is not broken to the downside. It's not an outside month. I want to see if it can put in a series of higher lows. If it's still slight lower low, you can see here on the daily. Here. So if this indeed is the bottom of a larger triangle, it might be okay. We'll have to keep an eye on that for certainly the coal names. ACI, the little guy, just getting chopped up in this triangle here. Too weak to even make a higher high there. Question is, come down and make the lower lows. If you look at WLT on the weekly, been watching this triangle, how this plays out. So still no resolution there, and certainly not totally joining the party by any means. If you look at the monthlies, metals, we've got CLF. I'm sorry, there's a weekly. Inside week for the CLF, still trying to come out of the basement. And on the daily here, you can see this. If this is really the corrective action with the slight lower low inside day, then back up to fulfill, that would be a nice move up into there. We keep an eye on the CLF. If we look at copper itself here before moving on, JJC, interesting here because you've got a monthly hammer. Doji, then hammer, trying to get out of this. And the weekly looks like a symmetrical triangle, which we know eventually should pull into a broadening formation. The question is it just a slight higher highs here? It's going to take that out first. And we'll see how that goes to affect copper names. If we look at X, still struggling. X just having all sorts of problems. Red month and a strong month up for the market. Still trying to form something out of here, but no evidence there as of yet. If we look at FCX, still trying to figure out what this company is now that they're oil and gas and they're copper and they're gold. They're big commodity play. And as I said, most of the month we're going to expect an inside month, and certainly we did. So here, I want to watch for long side signals above and short side signals below. So at 35.74, it's a penny away. And starting off the week, it's potential momentum hammer to try and expand this triangle. So FCX starting to look interesting. If we moved on to gold. Gold GLD, inside month. Okay, so all the gold bugs, here's for all the marbles. We're going to see which way this baby goes out of the inside month. If you look at silver, not quite, but a doji month. See these weeklies, still lots of mess in here, trying to figure out which way these things are going to go. Said would be important is if gold and silver start to move higher, that if this slight lower low inside week here is actually the trigger to a new broadening formation up, either up in here or all the way up in there. And we'll pay attention to that. We'll see how that goes. Because GDX still having its issues, but it's a new month. Starts off as a daily hammer. And, I was watching some of those gold and silver triangles. Here's silver wheaten. If silver starts going, this is the bottom forming of the triangle up into there, or, all right, and ABX, we're watching that. Triangle get more violent and to expand, and certainly it did the downside, now a hammer, but certainly want to watch the inside month in gold to get a good idea of where that thing's going. Okay, one of the most interesting groups coming up here is certainly going to be retail. We've got, remember, when we see an inordinate amount of actionable signals in one group, that's where we really want to focus. So for this week, retail, we got inside weeks in Starbucks. Inside week for the Starbucks, we've got, and once again, an inside week now. A break of either side gives you an actionable signal, and since we're just starting a new month, that's going to turn full time frame continuity your way. You're going to have that monthly turn in green or red depending on which side these take out. If you look at multiple signal stuff like Deckers here, people have been watching this thing for a long time. Well, here you go. You got Deckers starting off as an inside week. Deckers closes as an inside month, and we'll start Monday here as an inside day. If we look at Bed Bath & Beyond here. Bed Bath & Beyond is going to start off as an inside month. And if we look at this daily, it starts to take up that inside month. You can see here potential triangle out of this. Also in the inside weeks to start off, we got Ralph Lauren. I'm sorry, Ralph Lauren. Yes, Ralph Lauren is not a tight range. Remember, this is just Friday, but not a tight range, but starts off as an inside week. We got Monster. Inside week for the Monster. Inside week there, as a matter of fact. We've got Ross Stores. Inside week. We've got Urban Outfitters. Inside week. We've got Nike. It's an inside week. We've got Nordstrom's. As an inside week. We've got Saks, SKS, inside week, and really getting interesting here is how Saks gets out of here. Talked about this before, but see the series of dojis just been doing nothing for months and months. So the question is to come down and test this, or is it off to the races? So really want to pay attention to the inside week there in Saks. We got KORS, and boy, if anybody's been trying to track this one and having a tough time trading it, this is one of the stocks where if you don't understand that the broadening formation is dominating price action, you're actually getting killed in here. If you look at the daily, first of all, here's the monthly. An outside month tells us a triangle's coming, then inside month, slight higher highs, and you can see how this is just chopping them up. If you're trying to buy into new highs, you're getting killed. All right. So down into here, here's your monthly triangle. If you look at the weekly, all right, you can see this. Weekly triangle now gaps up, comes back down. That's a problem. And you can see the daily triangle. This is why you're getting chewed up. Broadening formation, inside day. And so if you try and go in strength and weakness in this thing, that's why you're getting killed. And you want to look for this. Inside day, bottom of the broadening formation. Run. Inside day, back in. No signal really there. Just want to be very clear because I know a lot of people watch that stock, and that's hopefully going to be helpful. We look at Chicos, CHS. Interesting here on the weekly chart. This thing is just stone sideways with a slight bias to the downside. So the question is, this really a giant monthly couple year bull flag trying to come out of here? Now you had an inside week, drops down, and now hammers. So possible reversal strategy to the upside. Sorry, I was talking about the monthly here. You see this once again, doji. So CHS, potentially looking to pick a direction here soon. I'd keep an eye on that. Okay, other monthlies to keep an eye on here in the Dow. Walmart. Walmart's an inside month and trying to come up. Potentially trying to come out of this weekly broadening formation here. Hain Celestial. Not a tight range, but an inside month as well. Gap Stores. Inside month off the top of the monthly triangle. So hopefully that would be support. Comes back in, holds the top of the monthly triangle. See how that one goes. We got Dick's, DKS. Inside on the month. We got Panera Bread. By a few ticks, I believe, inside on the month here. You want to be a little bit cautious here. Once again, daily broadening formation. On the month, we got Dollar Tree. inside month. So the question is down, sideways measured move, or is this the correction back up? And it's acted fairly well. Inside month and down, now inside month. Keep an eye on that. J.C. Penney's inside month. You got Dillard's Department Stores trying to go hammer. It wasn't quite an inside month by a few pennies the previous month, but hammer month in a strong trend. Like I said, a lot of these hammers are going to determine whether there's going to be a real second wave momentum move. Watching the cues, watching all these actionable signals coming up here. We got Costco inside month and trying to move higher. We got the Limited monthly hammer trying to come back up. We got Macy's monthly hammer trying to come back up. So, and remember, the Macy's got this broadening formation here too. Now trying to come through that. Under Armour, we've been watching this triangle for almost ever. Now trying to come up. This is actually the lower triangle, but it finally comes up. It goes inside day, never stops out. Now it goes inside day again. My only caution here would be a smaller formation like that, but if we can get through that stuff. Remember, Under Armour used to be somebody. A lot of stuff in there, so we keep an eye on that. Almost left for dead, but if we look at Diamond Foods here, remember Diamond Foods has been a hot potato, and Diamond Foods is now down in here, yield inside month. So if there's any hope for that baby, this would be where you'd start to look for any perking up out of this thing. Right here it looks like down, sideways measured move into oblivion, but we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, let's get to tech. Talked about the cues, how important that's going to be. And so we want to micromanage this as best as possible to make sure that this move is going to be real. Obviously, Apple's going to have a lot to do with it, but we're going to start out with inside days to start off the week. You're going to start off with Yahoo in the triangle and an inside day. You got Broadcom, inside day. You got EMC as an inside day. You've got JDS Uniphase, inside day trying to reverse there, like triangle style, down, up. NVIDIA, interesting too. Been watching this triangle. Hasn't been able to get out of here. It was an inside month that broke slightly to the upside. Never stops out, but doesn't really go anywhere. So I really want to watch this, how this triangle plays out in NVIDIA, if there's any hope. We got TDC. Starting off as an inside day and an inside week. You got Riverbed. Starting off as an inside day. You got AMD little guy going inside day and inside week. You got Facebook starting off as an inside day. After this triangle on the earnings, people are like, why is it going down? I'm like, triangle style. Came off the lows. Now it comes in here. Maybe it pops up, goes inside day again. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. Well, what's real interesting here with the Apple is the CRUS. Inside day really knuckling tight in here. And you've got your doji and then inside week again. So really you want to pay attention to that CRUS. A few more dailies to keep an eye on ARUN. IDCC. And you got your STX. Right, to start off Monday. For the weeklies, we'll see how all these trigger as a group to really get a handle on this QQQ. Obviously, Apple, the big inside weaker. You got Altera. Semi, inside week. You got IBM, talked about that in the Dow, IBM inside week. You got Xilinx inside week, also semiconductor. You've got Autodesk inside week trying to extend that triangle. You got the CRUS, just talked about that, more semiconductor. KLAC inside on the week. You've got Adobe inside week. You've got Microsoft, talked about that, and VECO. VECO, real interesting here to see if this triangle can come out of this inside and start getting moving up into there. So VECO interesting as well. For the monthlies in TAC, you got TIBX inside month. You got LXK in the printers. Inside month reversal strategy. So that could be a problem there if we start selling off much like that Intel. And RIM's been all over the place, but RIM's going to finish off as another monthly shooting star. Of course, that would have to confirm by going lower. So hopefully that will help us gauge as we go forward this week of exactly which way these cues are going to go. So far, there's no reason to believe things aren't going to try and resolve to the upside. Apple, of course, being the wild card there. Okay, story stocks. biggest story, HLF. And this is a good example of, when you've got these Titan guys going at it, to want to follow the technicals. And as you can see here, closes as an inside month, although not a very tight range. But as of last week, it goes inside week and plunges. It's just, like the strategy we use when we look for things. Inside week exhaustion, and here was the battle week, and you come in the next week, and let's see, even missed that. Got a little choppy. Then even by Friday, you had an inside day and back down. So HLF closing as an inside month with, not a very tight range, but just like anything else technical, we want to look for the actionable signals in the direction, and you can see how that would have worked out just fine. Finally, let's take a look at Baxter. Interesting thing about Baxter here is that, on the monthly, it's talked about this monthly breaking out of this and trying to extend this triangle, trying to go to new highs inside month and up, and still just walking up a bit. But if you look at the weekly, I've talked about this a few times, but this is important too when you're trying to look through charts. You also want to look for not only reliability of pattern, so when you go back to see how things act within inside days and broadening formations, see if things act well, but also how clean things are when things are moving. And you can see here, once again, recently, I'm going to shrink this down for you. What we'd like to look for is stocks that don't have a lot of wicks or shadows. And recently, not too much outside of this on the weekly. It's either, here, once it started moving, it's either being bought, sold, bought, nothing, inside, and then bought. Here's the chop, but for the most part, bought, sold, bought, sold, bought. And so on the weeklies, this thing's been very clean. It's going one way or the other. And so you might want to keep an eye on that as the week goes on, because if that pattern continues, and to look for buy signals during the week. Once it starts picking a direction, it opens on Monday. So, all right, I'm going to leave it at that. Once again, we're going to really mine this QQQ. Want to see if this TLT has really had it. For the most part, things are just running, so we can go sector by sector, watching all these inside weeks for further clues on whether this thing's going to continue and how that's going to work. But to start off this week, let's keep an eye on them QQQ and all them retails. All right, I'm Rob Smith for Smiths in the Black at T3 Live.